G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, that's Haz, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, as we go live for round 3 of the Big Bash season. Boys, welcome. Round 3 already. The summer of cricket just absolutely flies by, doesn't it? There's nothing quite like a day dominating England and then tuning into the Big Bash for another 3 hours this evening. Before we preview round the four fixtures for round 3, boys. How did you go on rounds 1 and 2?
G'day, Stu. G'day, Dill, and everyone tuning in today. Yes, you're right, Stu. Dominating England going into Big Bash. There is nothing better than that. My round 1 ranks were 21st in Contender and Challenger, and then 48th in Classic. And my round 2 ranks were not that hot. Contender 88th, Classic 95th, and Challenger 35. In round 2, I definitely had a struggle to pick a batsman that could score double digits. I think that was pretty consistent across the board. My 4 batters were David, Azam, Rizwan, and Lynn across my 3 comps. So that wasn't a great start. What about you, Dill?
G'day, boys. G'day, everyone listening and watching. Yeah, it just goes to show that bat position is just so volatile, and we can have some of the best batsmen in the world coming out to play Big Bash, but it just takes a really good cherry to get them knocked over. And when they don't have sort of any other stats to be able to back up that floor, it's quite difficult. And you've just got to take the good with the bad. Obviously, if a couple of punters out there thought that Timmy Seifert was able to turn his form around after his couple of hardly anythings in the preseason, then good on them for backing Timmy Seifert. I find it difficult to believe that anyone would have genuinely picked Tim Seifert over someone like Philippi, Rizwan, Babar Azam, etc. So, good on them for having a crack. Look, my round 1 and 2 ranks weren't too much better. Round 1 in Classic 26, Challenger 45. Champion is sort of where I'm putting most of my eggs in that basket at the moment, and I was 17th in round 1. Round 2, as you said, has very similar to you. I slipped down the rankings quite a lot. 47th for Classic, 45th for Challenger, and 27th for Champion. Interesting to note, I was 45th in both round 1 and 2 of Challenger, but somehow for the season, I am 43rd overall. So I don't quite know how that maths, but Stu, you had a bit better sort of shouts going into particularly round 1 and 2. How'd you go, mate?
Yeah, a little bit better, mate. But just while there's a chance, anyone in the chat that did play Timmy Seifert, let us know so you can get under Dill's skin a little bit for not playing his fellow Kiwi. We've got Mel in here as always. G'day, Mel. Thanks for tuning in once again. Izzy's here. G'day, legends. Izzy says. Mian G Gaming. He's here as well. G'day, mate. Thanks for tuning in. Stealth's excited for his very first preview show. Great to have you in here, Stealth. You might be able to give a bit of advice and tips to us as well, mate. So let us know who you're playing in the chat. Coach Stephen says, cheers, lads. For the preview, guys, he needs all the help he can get. Hopefully we can back you into a couple of winners here. Stephen and Peter, hello. Good to see a couple of new faces, some new names. G'day, Quicksilver. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, boys, a little bit better, I guess. For some of you, it's probably the only way is up. For me, I'm going to try to hover around where I currently am. I was able to finish in the top 20 for both Champion and Challenger, my 2 favourite comps, and currently sitting at 6th and 7th in the overall tally. So that's where I want to be. I want to be seeing my name and the Fantasy Bros logo on that leaderboard, and we're going to be talking about it pretty soon, boys. But prize cards, that's what our attention is going to turn to. We've got to get as high up on that leaderboard as possible. But look, I think there's going to be a lot of movement after round 1 and 2. There were, lots of really interesting scores. Some of the popular names that we expected to go big didn't go as well, and there are a couple of blokes that came from nowhere to score big ones that I think a few people are going to chase this week, and it might not pay off for them. All right, Haz, what can our viewers expect from us during our live preview shows this season?
So we're going to be coming to you most Mondays and Thursdays. Our live preview shows will look at all Big Bash fixtures in the upcoming round or rounds, where we highlight our favourite picks in the keeper, batsman, all-rounder and bowler positions, before sharing the Fantasy Bros consensus team of the round to see who we're keen to roll out in our teams. Throwdown Showdown, as always, continues again this year, where you, the viewers, can win some handy cards for your Oz cricket teams simply by tuning in and letting us know who you think will prevail each week.
Yeah, boys, you do not want to miss that. News as well. If you haven't signed up yet, what are you waiting for? Jump in, get involved. There are plenty of packs and prizes to be won, heaps of cash to be won as well. Look, all you need to do is jump onto the GameDay Squad website, download the app, sign up using the promo code SUMMER, that is SUMMER, all in capital letters, and you'll get three player common packs to start off your squad. Not just that, you'll get heaps of bronze cards as well for your free-to-play starter team. You pretty much just need to put a team together and you're going to get rewarded with some more packs, build them up over time, and you're going to have a super competitive team. And look, the benefit of it is that a lot of these champion teams that are playing in that top competition aren't able to play in that starter comp. So it just allows you more flexibility, more opportunity to win. Just on that, boys, a couple of notes from the chat there. Banger. He said his wife's kicking his butt at the moment. She's coming second in starter. Well done. And Mel's Misfits. We saw your name up on the leaderboard there. She finished third in Challenger this week. Unreal effort there, Mel. I think that's kind of, I think when Mel does well, I think the Fantasy Bros also do well. She's a massive supporter of the Bros. So good on you, Mel. Well done. Yeah, boys, look, we're going to get into a whole lot of previews. Plenty of things to talk about with round 3. Stu, do you want to kick us off with what the game's going to look like and if there's any weather around in particular?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. So on the screen for those currently tuning in, you'll be able to have a look at the 4 fixtures for round 3 and a couple of little weather icons indicating the forecast that we're expecting. Obviously, a lot can change, but it's important to note that some of these teams can experience washouts or even shortened games if there is a bit of weather around. So it just adds to some of the decisions that we have to make in the tactics. Are we going to play some Melbourne Renegades players, for example? You can see the little rainy icon there. That's on Sunday. We're still a while away from Sunday. We don't know if the weather's going to hold up or it could get worse. We don't want to be left stranded with Renegades, or they could be a bit of a pod if you do play the Renegades and that the match turns out fine and we get the full 40 overs in. But just run through a few stats that might help some people in our stream pick some players based on a couple of stats at specific grounds. And boys, I want you to pick out a few of the stats that you think really matter and are going to help us select our teams today. So round 1 this evening, we're kicking off in about 1 hour's time. Hopefully we get team news in less than half an hour, so we can spend a bit of time going through and digesting that information. But in terms of the Stars v Hurricanes, we're playing at the MCG tonight. And gee, who would have thought the weather there is actually looking pretty good? We shouldn't be at any risk of losing any time there in Melbourne. So some of the venue stats is quite surprising. We might keep an eye on who's batting first because batting average has been really low in recent years at just 25 GDS points per player. And that spikes to 35 points in the second innings. So maybe something to look out for there, who's potentially bowling first. But in saying that, maybe it's because the Melbourne Stars have 40 all-rounders in their squad. But the average for all-rounders in the first innings is a massive 60 points. So if you're rolling out a Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, Tommy Curran, and they're batting first, I dare say that you probably won't be too concerned that they should be amongst the runs. But some interesting numbers there to digest. We move to game 2. That's tomorrow evening, the Scorchers against the Heat. That's at the Gabba. So a nice home game there for Brizzy. Again, we're expecting no weather, so we should have some good cricket and hopefully see the Heat bounce back from a pretty disappointing game there against the Renegades. Not too much to talk about in terms of stats. All players average about 35.6, which is middle of the range. But the numbers do look to favour second innings players, only marginally in terms of bats and bowls, but all-rounders in the second innings. It looks like there's a more opportunity for some runs and some wickets there late on in the second innings. We then move over to the Thunder v the Sixers, the Sydney Derby. Gee, that should be a cracker on Saturday night, boys. There might be some rain around during that match, so certainly something to look out for on your Saturday afternoons. You might need to set an alarm and keep an eye on the weather. You might want to pivot to a couple of other plays, maybe in the Sunday game, but we could be left stranded here with 2 games in a row. You never know. We'd hate to see that happen, but it is something that we need to plan for. So not as bad as Sunday, but there is some potential rain around. And there are some interesting numbers here as well. At NG Stadium, the second innings for batsmen, one of the lowest in the comp at just 22.6 GDS points. And that obviously coincides with some pretty high bowling numbers, and the bowlers definitely come out on top at NG. We know the NG Stadium is conducive to spin, but it's a difficult batting track as well. So if you're rolling out any Sydney players, you probably want to be looking at your all-rounders or your bowlers and probably not rely too heavily on your bats. That's just what the stats tell us. And then game 4, the last game of the round, Renegades versus the Canes. So I should probably mention that the Hurricanes, you'll see them twice on screen.
Yeah.
What that actually means is that unlike some other platforms, we won't get their scores combined. So it's not a matter of just plugging in every Hurricanes player because they're playing twice. There is some benefit that the Hurricanes play twice, but it's simply that that we'll get their best of their 2 scores. So if they fail game 1, there's every chance that they can build on their score in game 2 against the Renegades there. We just won't have those points combined. So if you're unsure about that, in the comments or when you're listening to this, maybe Friday morning, let us know in the comment section or hit us up on Discord. We can explain that a little bit more. It just means we don't have to plug in those Hobart Hurricanes and expect them to score monster points. They still might go really well, but we're not going to rely on a double game. So the stats there at GMHBA down there in Geelong, we saw a pretty good game dominated by bats. The bowling was pretty ordinary, particularly from the men in teal. But just on those numbers alone, the first innings batting, a massive 59.6 GDS points. And the second innings wasn't too far behind with 55.25. And the all-rounders in the second innings scored 65 points per game as well. So, look, that to me, the numbers tell us that we want to target that game, particularly batsmen and all-rounders. But with the threat of rain, I don't know how much stock we can put into that game, particularly when we're not going to have any flexibility to make any changes if the game doesn't go ahead or if it's going to get shortened. So a lot of information to digest there, boys. I hope I haven't put you to sleep, but based on those numbers, any particular games you're looking to target? We'll start with you first, Haz.
I have 2 points. First of all, the first point is GMHBA before last week's game was considered a bowlers-friendly pitch. It's now reversed. Literally after one game, we are now targeting the batsmen at GMHBA. I loaded my side last week with all the bowlers, and that couldn't have gone worse. So good to know for future reference that we're now targeting the batsmen at GMHBA and not those bowlers. But I think the biggest thing for me, looking at the stats that we've just gone through, Stu, is the all-rounders in the first innings at the MCG. So for tonight's game, the Stars versus the Hurricanes, it's the highest average in the comp for an all-rounder in an innings, which is 60.4 GDS points. And like you said, Melbourne Stars, they are just absolutely loaded with all-rounders, Stoinis, Maxwell, Curran. But then it's also, it could go either way. If the Hurricanes bat first, there's also Mitch Owen, Chris Jordan. You got so many different options, regardless of which way the toss goes there. And even the second innings, the all-rounders still average 45.1. So I'm definitely looking to target all-rounders tonight.
Yeah, it's a really good point you make. And I was going to say exactly the same thing about GMHBA. It went from a bowling paradise to a batting paradise. And look, it'd be great to be able to load up on some Hurricane batters to have that second bite of the cherry and maybe a couple of Gades as well. But I'm really nervous about that rain being around and being the last game of the round. It's just so hard to think about how I would pivot elsewhere if I had a Renegades batsman in there and I, that rain came and there was no chance of a game and I ended up with a donut. So, yeah, I'll be thinking about my options before that and being as strategic as I can. But for me, the key stat that I'm going to hopefully target, depending on what happens at the toss, is that stat down at the Gabba. Obviously, we've got some great weather at the moment in Brisbane, so there should be no threat of rain. It's looking absolutely beautiful right now. But it's the second innings all-rounders that I'm probably going to target, and hopefully Perth Scorchers are able to get something out of that pitch. And someone like Aaron Hardy, I think, is going to have a big game. We've seen plenty of runs hit at the Gabba before, and I think Aaron Hardy, either with bat or ball, is going to have a big one. So that'll be sort of where I'm targeting probably one of the bigger players for this round.
Yeah, love it. Thanks for sharing, boys. We've got a couple of new names here in the chat just before we preview the 3 main positions, such as Fife. long time delayed watcher, first time live. G'day, mate. Thanks
Welcome.
for joining us. We got Maxi here as well. Thanks for tuning in, Maxi. Stealth, he knows about the NG Stadium. Perfect for bowlers, particularly those spinners. So we love to see some thunder spin bowlers in our sides.
Yeah.
We've got Drisbell, and Stealth has also told us that there's a new curator at GMHBA,
there you go.
And that looks as though last match's games are going to be the norm. So yeah, we can start looking to throw in those batsmen, and that's what we love to see in the short form of cricket, don't we? We want it to be exciting. We want the fans to turn up, and if it's a 200 score in the first innings and then a 180 chase, it should be plenty of points for our GDS teams. Righto, boys, everyone's here for one main reason, and that's to see the players that we're going to target across the three main positions. So from those four matches, we're going to preview one player each. We'll have a couple of additional players on screen as well. Let us know in the comments section who you are keen on starting as well, and see if you can sway us and change our mind to put some of these players into our teams. Let's start with the bat and wicketkeeper position. I think the five names that stand out to me, you will notice that there is no Tim Seifert. We're sort of maybe backing, I don't know if that's a risk or not, but we're backing against him keeping that form up at GMHBA. A couple of reasons, I guess, the weather around and can he do that again? It was definitely an impressive knock, but he is a man in form. We think Timmy David and Nikhil Chowdhury with the double bite at the cherry are good plays in your bat wicketkeeper spot. Josh Philippe was unreal in his first two matches. Cooper Connolly is just an absolute king in that bat position, and Davey Warner should be making himself available for that Sydney derby, and he'll want to get up for that game. He absolutely hates losing to his crosstown city rivals. So, boys, from that list, let's start with you, Haz. Who are you targeting across all of your squads in the bat wicket?
Now, it looks like I've probably gone for the easy one out of the options, and it's Cooper Connolly. Now, he is a genuine absolute gun. We talked him up all preseason as a potential MVP of the tournament, and geez, he did not disappoint in that opening match of the season. Kicked off the campaign with a bang, scoring 59 runs, including 3 fours and 5 sixes in that reduced, shortened over game. I expect that form to continue against the Heat in round 3. The Renegades showed in round 2 that the Heat bowling can be put to the absolute sword with Tim Seifert, as we talked about, smashing that incredible century on what we talked as a bowler's paradise. It highlighted just how much the Heat bowlers struggled to stem the flow once things started going against them. And probably Shaheen Shah Afridi, I'm expecting a big bounce back from him, especially. And that performance also continued a worrying trend, with the Heat allowing the most GDS points to batters last season at an average of 38.2 per game. The Gabba only strengthens Cooper Connolly's case, ranking as the 4th highest scoring venue for batters at 32.4 GDS points per game. Everything points towards another strong outing for Cooper. I'm sure nearly everyone will be playing him this week, and rightfully so. The real question is, though, how much salary are you willing to put on him this round?
Yeah, I think if you've got the higher rarity cards, you'll be wanting to put as much as you can on. Obviously, we've got some good weather there in Brizzy. There's a couple of question marks across the other matches and the surfaces as well that may not necessarily be conducive to his game style. But yeah, look, I think if you've got a Cooper Connolly card, you did take the easy option there, Has. Want a bit more from you next show. All right.
That's fair.
Dill, we got a couple of people in the comments asking about why not McDermott. 2 questions here. What are your thoughts on McDermott? We have left him out, but he's probably that 6 or 7 option for us. And look, the top 5 were really hard. But why not McDermott for you? And then who are you keen on?
Yeah, I think for me, when we look at the Hurricanes batting lineup, I think McDermott, he came out at 3 previously. And if we look at last season against the Stars in particular, batsmen coming out at 3, they're averaging 30 GDS points from last season, compared to batsmen that are opening were averaging 35. A little bit further down the order, they're averaging 40 plus. So for me, that shows that potentially Tim David might be the option along with Chowdhury. Outside of that as well, McDermott, the coach came out and said that McDermott could play any position in that batting order, that they're going to keep it quite flexible and quite fluid for McDermott because they back his his skill and his ability across any position, depending on that situation. So I'd rather have someone that I know that is going to be coming into a certain position. And we talked today about the role that Tim David has in that side, and it's pretty clear they want him to clear the road. They want him to go over the top of the field, particularly when they're in during those power play opportunities in that second half of the innings. And we know Chowdhury, the way that he's playing at the moment, they've got heaps of praise on him and his ability to bat in that opening position. So that's sort of why I'm leaning away from McDermott. Not saying that I won't play him in one of my list as a bit of a pod, but I just think for me that the roles that David and Chowdhury had are just a little bit clearer than what McDermott has, and that's probably why I'm staying away from him. But I still think he's a great option. Look, we're going to continue to say that Hobart Hurricanes, it's hard not to pick a player when they've got a couple of opportunities to have a crack. So, yeah, if you've got a McDermott card and you're keen to play him over Chowdhury or David, I don't see why not. Just be prepared that depending on the situation, he might not even come out to bat, and you don't want that to happen, particularly in the batsmen. You know, if they're chasing a decent score and their openers get the majority of the runs, and he comes out for one or two overs to finish it off, I'll be pretty upset by that. So, yeah, I think I'll stick with the players that I know the roles of a little bit clearer. Then in terms of the batsmen that I'm looking at, look, there's a couple of things, and probably Timmy David's the big one that for me that I'm going to stick with. We saw some really disappointing displays from those out-and-out batsmen in round 1 and 2, especially big names like Azam, Lynn, McSweeney, even Tim David as well. It makes it really difficult. It just shows that floor that we're working with is so low when those players in those positions, they don't have a second role or even third role in the team to rely on those stats to get them out of those really rubbish batsman scores. I think on the other side, when we look at that, we've got to have some context though. Batsmen averaged 31 across round 2, that round. So I think if we think about it that way and we look at some of the scores that did occur, we look at someone like Timmy Seifert, he sort of played out of his skin. We don't want to chase those points necessarily. So for me, I'm going to back the skill and the talent of Tim David, knowing that he potentially has a second opportunity. And look, the hard part is obviously the potential of rain in the second game that they're going to play. We might miss out on that game, and it really limits the pivot opportunity. So if I do want to go like with someone like Jake Fraser-McGurk or even David Warner with that little bit of threat of rain in that third game, it makes it really hard to pivot. So I'd rather bank on someone like Tim David's points early and just sit back and I guess pray for rain in those other games, knowing that I've banked 20 to 30 points from Timmy David with the potential to go quite large. I think, look, remembering that as he gets his highest score out of those 2 games, I think he's going to match well against the Stars, but it'll be that big game that hopefully he has in the second game against the Gades that I'm pretty keen on. Obviously, we talked about the stats at GMHBA and the environment for batsmen and what that could mean for Timmy David. But in terms of let's just scenario-based line through that Gades game, we just bank on the Timmy David points from the Stars match. And I think he's got a pretty good matchup up against the Stars tonight at the MCG. Hopefully we see him out in the middle a bit longer than what we did. And the last season stats, the Stars allowed an average of 43.8 GDS points to batsmen coming in at 5. So I think for me, that's sort of that ideal role for Timmy David. And like I said, hopefully he gets just a little bit of time out in the middle and we can bank on those points early and not have to worry about any kind of pivots later in the week.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like you said earlier about Ben McDermott, I think it's a very good shout as a pod. I think, you got your big names, David, Chowdhury even as well, could potentially be a pod, but McDermott is definitely someone that he's been in a couple of editions of my team this week or for this round. But Tim David, I think you're right. I think you nailed it on the head that he's got that safety net. He's guaranteed to play tonight. He's going to get, hopefully, at least 20 to 30 points. And if he gets a second game, then hopefully he just goes better and bigger than that. So he's got that safety, whereas if you're trying to lean elsewhere, like you said, it's hard to pivot. So, yeah, I'm definitely keen on Tim David again this week, and hopefully he can continue that dominance he looked like showing in the Surge on Sunday, I believe it was.
Yeah, just before we move on, Stu, and talk about yours, I just want to throw a scenario to you. We've got 3 genuine batsmen for the Hobart Hurricanes, and Stealth makes a good point here. Look, McDermott gets 2 chances, while someone like Warner is on the worst deck in the comp. So it's easy pickings for stealth. Is there any world where you just roll out all 3 batsmen from the Hurricanes and just load up on the opportunity for them to have 2 cracks?
No, it's not for me. And the main reason why is McDermott's, if he was playable as a wicketkeeper, then yeah, maybe. But if you're rolling out Timmy David, Chowdhury, and McDermott, they're all in your bat lineup, and that means there's no space for Cooper Conley. And I don't think there's going to be a game this season where I don't roll out a Cooper Conley, particularly on that nice flat deck there at the Gabba, where we're expecting, both teams to go probably 180 plus. I can't fit all those 3 players in. We've spoken at length about Tim David and the success he's had recently. One poor score doesn't mean he's going to go awful for this whole tournament. If anything, people are going to jump off him and becomes a bit of a pod, and he's going to fire eventually. He looked really good until sort of just, swinging at something a little bit wildly, during the power surge. And let's hope he can keep a little bit more still there at the crease and hit that one over rather than straight up in the air. And Chowdhury has that option as a potential spinner, and we just love that dual role. Obviously, there's a lot of bowling options there at the Canes, but he's bowled in the past. He's bowled for Tassie in the Shield as well. So it's not like he can't bowl. And if things aren't going to plan, or maybe they only go in with one frontline spinner, there's every chance that he gets thrown the ball even above the likes of someone like Mitchie Owen. So he's got that extra string to the bow that won't happen every single game, but there's always that chance, and that chance is what gets me. Puts him slightly ahead for me. So, yeah, no Benny McDermott for that reason. Not saying he's a bad shout at all. There will be a side that I have him in, but given his status as a batsman only, I would have loved to see him as a wicketkeeper. We could probably have, 4 or 5 Hobart Hurricanes on each of our slides for our preview. But, boys, we also spoke about the weather on Sunday, and that's come into our calculations as well based on the players that we want to target. And just because they've got 2 scheduled games doesn't mean they're going to go off in both of those games, and it doesn't mean that game's going to go ahead at this point. But, look, I won't speak too long about another Hobart Hurricane. I do like Chowdhury. He opened the batting. We sort of expected him maybe to be in that middle order 3, 4, 5, but they did come out and name him at opener, and he looked really good. He scored 41 off 31. He hit 3 sixes and a 4, and him taking advantage with the field up just means that he's going to get those big scores. They won't happen all the time, but he's good enough, he's strong enough to pick the gaps, hit over the infield. And if he can get plenty of those balls alongside Mitchie Owen in that power play, nice and early on in the game, he can definitely race along to 20 runs before that field goes back. So, yeah, plenty of reasons to bet on Canes this round. And look, you could probably name 4 or 5 of them, and chances are someone comes from the clouds and pips them anyway. But heaps of really good bat options. If you're looking for safety, look for the guys that are going to play twice. And just before we move on, boys, Mianji Gaming has noticed that we don't have Rizwan or Bubba on our team lineup at the moment. I think we're all a little bit scarred from watching those 2. They're obviously supremely talented international batsmen, but it's just a running theme, isn't it, of players coming over to Australia, having not played much cricket here in the past, and taking a little bit of time to sort of acclimatise and get suited to the conditions. We expected players of their ilk to maybe adapt a lot sooner. Bubba looked okay with one little flick off his pads for 4 last night, but then spooned one straight there to mid wicket. So yeah, I probably want to see a little bit more from them. Let's target a couple of Canes players, and Cooper Conley, Mr. Reliable. Look, he should probably be an all-rounder. If we can slot him into our bat position, then you beauty. Rightio, that's probably enough chat about bat wicket keepers. Let's see in the chat if anyone is madly refreshing Cricinfo or watching their TV screens and can tell us who's going to win the toss and what some team lists look like. Please do. We will pause the all-rounder chat as soon as those team lists are announced. But boys, let's run through some all-rounders to target. We've got Glenn Maxwell, Mitchie Owen, Chrissy Jordan playing this evening. Jack Edwards been an absolute fire during these first 2 games for the Sixers. Shut Up Khan at NG Stadium looks to be the goods again with the ball and pretty dominant with the bat. And Aaron Hardy. Dill, you've already prefaced that you like the look of the Perth Scorchers and Aaron Hardy as an all-rounder. So plenty of options there, boys. We can only squeeze 4 into our squad. who's your all-rounder that you're locking into most of your squads this round?
So I mentioned earlier about the all-rounder average in the first and second innings at the MCG being one of the highest in the competition, and that reason I am going for the big show this week. He is back in the BBL and walks into that very juicy matchup against the Hurricanes. Hurricanes allowed 46.7 GDS points per game to all-rounders last season, and we saw just how damaging that matchup can be in their final meeting at the MCG last year. The Stars averaged a massive 75 GDS points from all of their all-rounders, highlighted by Maxi's monster 129. Maxwell scored 76 runs in that game, including 6 sixes and 5 fours. And as always, it just wasn't his batting that had GDS coaches sitting back in their seats. He found ways to contribute in the field as well, taking 3 catches for an extra 28 fielding points. I don't see those fielding contributions dropping off anytime soon. We know he's one of the best fielders in the competition. And without that captaincy, I expect him to be parked in the hot spots for the entire innings. I'm also expecting Maxi to come in at number 4. So hopefully when team lists come through shortly, we get that confirmation, which I think will be an ideal position for him. It allows him to get set, build an innings if needed, and then explode towards the back end. Ideally, you want Maxi already in when the surge hits so you can fully unleash that 360-degree skill set that he has. MCG might be one of the biggest grounds in the world, but when Maxi gets going, even those 80-meter boundaries won't be big enough to hold him back. He's a lock in my sides this week, even if he doesn't look to bowl.
Yeah, he was used quite strangely toward the back end of last season, wasn't he? We saw him come in as low as 6. There's a really clear role for him, and that's obviously to take on the back end of that innings, and certainly through the power play as well. With the Stars looking like they're bowling first, is that right? We've got the Stars bowling first, so we'll get team lineups out shortly. There is some trepidation starting Maxi and relying on him with a big game with the bat, particularly when the Stars bat second. For me, I'd love them batting first to be really confident in Maxi, knowing that, well, they're going to get their 20 overs and then he's going to come out and do his thing whenever they think the time is right. You know, if the Stars have a really good bowling performance and they can somehow skittle the Hurricanes for a low total, we did speak earlier that the team batting first batsmen are only averaging 24 GDS points. So, you know, there's a world where Maxi may not be required too much with the Stars with the bat. But as someone did mention earlier, the Stars have such a brutal top order that Paul Stoyne and Maxi are probably going to have to shoulder a big workload with bat this season. Have we got some team lists out, boys, or we want to run?
Look, I haven't seen them yet. I'm watching the feed live. What I can tell you is Pete Siddle looks unreal with his bleach blonde hair. So he looks like he's going to bowl all 4 overs as a 41-year-old. Look, before we get to the teams, a couple of comments around Will Sutherland not being on our list for all-rounders. And I guess Mel sort of summed it up well there, that with the weather around, that because of that weather concerns, I just find it so risky to have someone in my side that's going to play on that Sunday and not necessarily know how that game's going to go in terms of whether there's going to be any game at all. And if not, there's really no pivot options outside of that. You can't rely on being able to change to a Hobart Hurricane because they're already locked and all other games are finished. So it's such a difficult decision to put a Renegade in. If I do, it's probably going to be a bowler, and we'll talk about bowlers soon. Probably be a bowler, and I will then make a decision tomorrow or Saturday night as to whether I continue having that player in there or whether I swap that out. So yeah, it's got to give me some flexibility. And we'll just wait and see, I guess, what that weather looks like.
Yeah, and it's not like we're replacing him with a hack that's not going to do any good. There are some unreal options on screen there, obviously, and a couple of them with the chance of 2 games. So, yeah, look, if every game was played in a dome, he'd definitely be factored in contention, probably over the likes of Chrissy Jordan, maybe Aaron Hardy as well. It's just that uncertainty, which is why we're less confident on him, not doubting his talent whatsoever. All righty, boys, let's have a quick chat about tonight's game and then run through the rest of our all-rounders and bowlers so that people can get nice and comfortable for tonight's game. But Here's anything standing out with the Stars batting order. We've got Rogers, Clark, Campbell, Kellaway, Sammy Harper, Stoinis, Maxwell, 6. That was the danger. That's the possibility. It doesn't mean he'll come out at 6. He'll definitely float, but there looks like there's some intention there that he is going to come in at the back of the innings as late as possible, which means batting second, he may not necessarily be required. With all respect to the top 4, there's certainly no world beaters, so he could be in there after 6 or 7 overs anyway. We got Cartwright at 7, Curran, Swepson, Harris, Ralph, and Peter Siddle. Has anything standing out there for you?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's just Maxi's position. I wish I got him higher up the order, but like you said, it doesn't mean that he will come in at 6. The game situation might force them to play a bit of a hand and bring him up the order if they're chasing some quick runs in that chase, but I would like to see him at least at 5. I still think I'm still going to roll him out, but I am questioning that decision now that there are so many good options this week.
Dill, are you going to roll him out?
Mate, firstly, I feel like it's last season all over again. Every single Stars match, you and I sat here and said, do we play Stoinis? Do we play Maxwell? Do we play Curran? Throw Cartwright into that mix as well. I don't know which way to go. Again, we have no guarantee that Maxwell's going to bowl. We have no guarantee that Stoinis is going to bowl. I suggest one of them will have at least an over or 2. So maybe I might pivot to Stoinis looking at that list now.
Just looking back at that list, there are only the 4 recognised bowlers, obviously, in Siddle, Ralph, Swepson, and Curran. Cartwright, we don't expect to bowl. Therefore, Maxwell, Stoinis looks like they'll share 4 between them. If Ralph or Siddle are taking a bit of stick, there's every chance we see Stoin or Maxwell relied upon the ball with the ball a bit more. Yeah, and we know Maxi loves bowling to the left-handers. There aren't too many in the Hobart batting lineup, so may mean it's a Stoinis game with the ball tonight. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
In the chat, let us know who you're playing, Stoinis, Maxwell, or completely off them and going someone else. We'll continue, and we might come back and have a bit of a chat about a couple of bowling options for the Hurricanes a little bit later on. But look, I think that just leads perfectly into the conversation I was going to have is how good is this all-rounder headache that we have tonight? We've got Maxi, Stoin, Curran, Owen, Jordan, Cartwright, if you want to throw him in there as well, plus the rest of the round, Hardy, Shadab, Sutherland, Edwards, Dwarshuis. I love the idea that almost every team is going to have a different 4 combination across, and coaches are going to have to make some really big decisions. And I love the idea that there's going to be some big salary pod decisions, I think, as well. Do you load up on Maxi now, knowing that he's potentially down the order? Do you just keep to what's worked well so far and load up on someone like Jedwards, who all intentions should have another great game? But for me, I talked about it at the top of the show, and it's got to be Aaron Hardy for me. His role just looks fairly set in the side. He coming in at 4, he looked really comfortable. And then, look, he's providing overs with the ball as well. He even opened the bowling the other night, which I love to see. Anytime you've got an all-rounder that is almost certain that's going to have a couple of overs, you know that he's going to open the bowling. I think that's just absolute gold. There's plenty of opportunity to take a wicket in that first over. So I really like Aaron Hardy coming into this. We talked about as well that Gabba potentially gives up some of the most points in terms of runs that we've seen at any venue. We've watched down, 200 plus being chased down by the Heat or other teams as well in the past. So I think that just adds to Hardy's opportunity. Coming in at 4, we potentially see him and Connolly working really well together. If Connolly gets out cheaply, then maybe Finn Allen has a good dig and they make a really nice partnership. So I really like that. But the other thing that I really like is last season, the Heat gave up the second most points to all-rounders with an average of 47.6 GDS points per game. Obviously, we didn't see his full capabilities when he was batting last round. He only hit 13 runs, but he did hit a 4 and a 6. So we can see that he wants to push the needle a little bit. However, those Heat bowlers, look, we could talk about all day how poor they were. I know we'll highlight one in particular, but I can't see a world where they become too much better. They didn't look dangerous at all. And I think we've got a really good opportunity for Hardy and a few other scorchers to just annihilate them. And I love that we can bank on Hardy's at least 2-dimensional role, if not 3, if he gets around a catch or 2 as well. So, look, it's got a great floor and he's got a potentially huge ceiling. So I'm happy to run him out as one of the key all-rounders for this round.
Yeah, seeing him open the bowling, and I think he bowled the last in that shortened game as well. So there's clear intentions on how they want to use him. Mitchy Marsh said himself that he's not in line to be bowling anytime soon. So wheels up for Aaron Hardy. I love it. Stealth has weighed in on the all-rounder debate for this round. He's thinking Stoinis over Maxwell. And I think, I think Stoin will feature in at least one of my sides, given we've seen what the Stars want to do with Connie Maxwell. But gee, you'll be kicking yourself if you take him out of all of your sides. And he has a typical Glenn Maxwell game. He strolls out there at number 3 like usual, as if that naming it at 6 was just to throw a few people off and maybe some fantasy coaches.
I just jump in here as well? Stealth has put in Callaway for 100. We did a bit of a deal today, and Stealth is the new owner. I thought that's what that was about. Red Callaway. So let's hope that for my sake, Campbell Callaway doesn't have a good game, but for Stealth's sake, I hope he does.
Rightio. Good luck to all Campbell Callaway players. And just before we move over to my all-rounder in the bowler position, looks like the Hurricanes are unchanged. So they'll be looking to run out pretty similar, although we did see Rihan Ahmed move way down there to, I think it was number 6. So I think some people were pretty keen on him. Seeing him named at 3, he didn't get many overs with the ball. He seems to be that odd one out with bat and ball, being delayed in terms of when they want to use him with the bat and not being the go-to with the ball either. So yeah, interesting to see if McDermott shuffles up there to 3. But we've got the same opening combination in Owen and Chowdhury. Right, boys, just before the bowlers, very quickly, my all-rounder, Shadab Khan, playing at NG Stadium. I think that pitch we know is going to do a lot for the spinners. It's difficult to bat on. This game, the Sydney Bash, is going to be a super exciting one. And I think both teams are going to be ripping in and doing everything that they can do to win. We saw how good Shadab Khan was with the bat in game 1. But so he scored 34 from 24 and he chipped in nicely with a couple of wickets as well. So there was some uncertainty about his role with both Tanvir Sangha and Chris Green alongside him in that lineup. But those 3 spinners got their 4 overs and it was the quick bowlers that actually missed out on some overs. And that was on a pitch that wasn't as conducive to spin. Now they're going over to NG. I think it's, all but locked in that we should see Shadab Khan get all 4 and he's probably going to cause some damage with the ball there as well. So I like him as a bit of an option. He's not going to be too much of a pod. People are going to look at his score of 89 and go, you beauty, I'm going to expect that every round. He's not going to score that every round. There'll be matches where he doesn't go well with the bat at all. But the fact that he's, already been given 4 overs with the ball coming in at 6 is pretty good for me. And I do like the look of him, particularly on this deck. He wouldn't be an everyday play for me, but someone I'm targeting in terms of the matchup. Right, boys, we've got probably 25 minutes until the first ball is bowled. Let's run through bowlers that we want to target and then get on to some pack openings for Brodown Showdown. We'll see who's won that and which viewers are going to claim some prizes. So on screen, a couple of bowlers that we're targeting. Nathan Ellis, Xavier Bartlett were both pretty popular in round 1. Didn't go too well, but we're expecting a bit of a bounce back from both. Chrissy Green, similar to Shadab Khan, is going to look to do a lot of damage there on the NG Stadium surface. Harris Ralph, rolling his arm over tonight for the Stars, should see all 4 overs and get some pretty crucial overs with the ball as well. Jason Berendorf, he was the man last season, started the season nicely, but obviously some question marks about that game, but still a good option or maybe someone that we can pivot off of on the Saturday night to a Chris Green if that game looks like it's going to be impacted. Let's start with you, mate. Which bowler are you targeting for round 3?
Big X is going to be the bowler that I am targeting for round 3. He was a real shining light with the ball for the Heat against the Gades in round 2. He finished with figures of 1 for 28 against that red-hot batting lineup. It included 15 dots, which I think is pretty impressive for bowling to a side that scored over 200. And he's obviously his economy come out at 6 there across his 4 overs. It didn't translate into a massive GDS score for coaches, but there were plenty of positive signs to suggest that big games are coming. He opened the bowling, he bowled during the surge, and he closed out the innings. And those are the overs you want your bowlers delivering. Bowling in all key phases screams upside, with batters forced to take those extra risks, which naturally just increases wicket-taking opportunities. He clearly enjoys bowling at the Gabba as well. Last season, Bartlett averaged 50.6 GDS points across his 5 games at the venue, making it one of his favoured grounds for the season. This is highlighted by a season high of 110 when he played against the Stars, where he took 4 wickets, showing just how damaging he can be when the batters are forced to take those extra risks at those key stages of the innings at the Gabba. And if the Heat's batting struggles continue, he may even chip in with a few handy runs down the order to boost his score. He got out for 1 in round 2, but I think there is potential that he might add, 10, 15 points in some games. And everything lines up again this week, the role, the venue, and the form. And he has that upside. So once again, I'll be locking him in for round 3.
Yeah, like all those points, mate. He's going to fire at some point. He's been a quality bowler for the Heat and in his few international games as well. It's not going to take too long to click. If the Heat are bowling first, I like that a little bit more than if they were to bat first and have the Scorchers chase. I'm not confident in the Heat setting a big enough score for the Scorchers to have much pressure on them if the Scorchers were to bat second and chase that down. So fingers crossed the Heat are bowling first. He'll be guaranteed all 4. Who knows? Shaheen Shafridi may be taken out of the bowling again, and there's even more responsibility on Big X. Right, Adil, you're pretty pumped for someone to return to the Big Bash.
Yes, and my good mate Mian G Gaming has already predicted the player that I'm going to talk about. It is Harris Ralph, and for that exact reason, he's got some great form on Australian pitches, and particularly at the MCG. And I am pumped for him to be back. It's been a bit of time since he's been around the BBL, but he's back and he's had a stint away, and he's really had probably a great couple of seasons, both internationally and domestically. And it's great to see him back in the Stars colours, and really keen to see him and how he bowls tonight. Look, the Hurricanes, they haven't allowed bulk points to bowlers, both in their first outing of this tournament, but also last season. But I think that Ralph is going to be amongst the wicket takers here. We just looked at the lineups for the Stars, and there's only 4 genuine bowlers, and I think they're going to put a lot of stock into Harris Ralph. And look, we've been joking about it all pre-season, but Peter Siddle, he is 41 years old, and I just don't see a world where he's going to be their key strike bowler. I think it is going to come down to Harris Ralph, and I'm backing him for a big game. Last time Ralph was in the Big Bash, he faced up against the Hurricanes. He took 3 for 24 with 8 dot balls in that game. So I'm keen to see him come out and face up against the Canes again. But look, it's all about his recent ODI and T20 form leading into this tournament. Recent ODI series up against Sri Lanka saw him take 9 wickets in 3 matches. And his previous 4 T20 international matches, he took a combined 7 wickets across those 4. So I'm keen to see him back. Hopefully he rewards me and whoever else jumps on board. Obviously, Mian's looking to load up on Harris and hopefully a few others. Look, the other thing is, don't forget, you can head over to the GDS website and filter stats by year. So you can go back to when Harris Ralph was last in the Big Bash in 2023, and you can see he finished with an average of 43.25 from the 4 games that he did play there. So it's a decent average for a bowler when we see sort of bowling averages across the year, sort of sitting around that 30-ish plus points. So anything above that 35 to 40, I'm pretty happy with. So if he can get a couple of wickets today, I'll be pretty pleased with myself.
Timo's backing you in as well. He says the Pakistan players, unfortunately, have been pretty quiet to start the season. So hopefully Harris Ralph can redeem and get them ticking along nicely. We've got Maxi. Quick question about Jai Richo. Given that he's been named in the Perth squad, he's been released, obviously, from the Aussie Test team. Yeah, mate, we like him. We've talked a lot about him in the preseason. He's probably going to be a pivot option off Jason Behrendorff if that weather in Geelong hangs around. And yeah, I know we've got to make that decision tomorrow evening, but we spoke about Aaron Hardy. We spoke about the fragility of the Heat's batting lineup. So yeah, Jai Richo, he needs to play plenty of cricket, and him being sitting in the sheds there for the Aussies watching them play is doing no good for him. So yeah, he needs to be out there playing the Big Bash. He's going to love the Gabba pitch. He's also pretty handy with the bat if required.
Yes.
Rightio. So for me, boys, I'm going to put some faith in Chrissy Green. I spoke a little bit about Shut Up Khan earlier. Chrissy Green's going to make my side. But look, I think I said enough about Shut Up Khan that made him seem like a really good play, particularly given the surface there at NG Stadium. And the fact that there are question marks over a couple of these other bowlers who either didn't have a good round one or, might be facing some weather conditions there on the Sunday. So Chrissy Green, just like Shut Up Khan, showed that they can deliver with both bat and ball. Chrissy Green chipped in for some nice runs as well. We know their top order can be pretty fragile as well. And there are so many times when, Dan Sams had to come to the rescue in previous seasons, and sometimes he got the job done, other times he didn't. We did see Chrissy Green out there earlier, so I think he can contribute nicely with the bat. He's probably not going to find a way into my team most weeks, but yeah, this matchup with the Sydney Sixers, I want to target that, and I'm going to have at least one or two bowling options there from that match, and I think there's going to be some nice points available to our all-rounders and bowlers. It's just a shame that the Sydney Sixers aren't throwing up too many good bowling options, or the points are being stolen from Jack Edwards in the all-rounder spot, aren't they?
Yeah, love that. Love that. Yeah, I like the Chris Green shout. Look, I'm going to be honest. When I read the news about Cameron Green the other night with the IPL, the first time I read it, I actually thought it was Chris Green, and I couldn't believe myself that someone of Chris Green's talent is getting, what was it, 4.5 million or something. And then I read it again, and the wrong C Green. But I'm keen to play Chris Green as well. He might be a pivot option for me off of Berendorf, who, depending on what happens with the rain as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Righto, boys. Let's start wrapping things up. Firstly, with our round 3 consensus 11, has Dill Scobie, a good friend Scobie, and I. We've put our ranks together, and we've come out with this lineup. Josh Philippi at keeper, Timmy David, Cooper Conley, and David Warner manages to sneak his way into our consensus 11. Got a pretty solid all-rounder quadruple there in Mitchie Owen, Aaron Hardy, Jack Edwards, and Glenn Maxwell. No surprises there you'd expect. And then Jason Berendorf, Nathan Ellis, Xavier Bartlett. That looks pretty template to me. I think a lot of teams to feature heavy in the ranks are probably going to look for one or two pods that can go against, maybe a Glennie Maxwell, a David Warner. Their fixtures might not look too good on paper. People might look to go elsewhere. And we've obviously got Chrissy Green there as a bit of a pod if you like him in your bowling lineup. Boys, Row-down Showdown, where Dill and I select a player from a different position each round, and we tally up the points and see who wins at the end of the season. Also, if you're the winning player each week or the winning bro each week, the losing bro has to open up a pack for you. And the viewers also get some couple of cards opened up. Unfortunately, on screen is not the result from round 1.
No.
Much to my dismay, I did have a late pivot off Cooper Conley, despite him absolutely shredding both of you with 88 points. I had a late change to Timmy David based on the weather concerns. We didn't even know if that Scorchers Sixers game was going to get off the ground. So there are the real numbers. With his all-rounder selection of Matty Short, 47 points. Yeah, I don't think we're going to have too many rounds where a sub 50-point score wins. Timmy David, 21, not great. So I came last for the week, and X there in the middle with 36. So what that means is I'm going to open 2 packs, and one of those packs is going to go to Haz. He can do what he wants with those 3 cards. And anyone who commented Haz's name in last week's show, they're going to get the other pack, and we can send that over to them as soon as they reach out on Instagram or Discord. We might have to go chase them up if they're not currently live. Anything you need to add there, Dill, before I switch my screen across and start opening some packs?
No, I'm off in the wheel first, mate, and we can find out who won. As Stu said, all you need to do is comment who you think the bro is going to win for the week, and you can see there we've got a number of viewers who commented. Thank you to everyone that did. You all voted for Haz in his debut to have a win, so now you've got an opportunity to win the contents of the pack that we're about to open. It is Timo.
Congratulations, Timo.
Well done, Timo. How do you feel about that? Your first win, 1 from 1. Can you do a clean sweep?
I don't know about a clean sweep, but I didn't think I did any well because I was watching Matt Short and I was like, oh God, I think I'm going to be covered easily. But yeah, like you said, Stu, I don't think there's going to be many times throughout the year where a sub 50 score is going to win Brodown Showdown. So I'll definitely take it when it's my turn.
Rightio. So this pack here, who's this pack going to? This 3-player rare All-Stars pack.
Timo,
let's give it to Timo. Surely, straight up,
This
Timo.
one's for Timo.
Well done, mate.
Get an All-Star happening here, Timo. All right, we've got a couple of golds. Oh, Aaron Hardy gold. That's going to be lovely. To play.
Timo.
We've got a Caleb Jewell, not as exciting as the Aaron Hardy. And Scotty Boland, he had a pretty good spell, didn't he? And maybe we can see him in the Big Bash, ripping in like he's been doing for the Aussies. But pretty handy card there. He'll definitely be featured at some point. It's not while the test series is happening, unfortunately. So well done, Timo. Get that Aaron Hardy into your side for tomorrow night. That's going to be pretty handy. And Haz, well done, mate. Here is your 3 cards to do as you wish.
All right, let's see how we go.
Done.
Good luck.
Bit like Timo, starting off with the Perth all-rounder. Probably not the one you want after Mitchy Marsh, another -2. That's how he's tracking along. Can he get 3 in a row? Paddy Cup, this is such a similar pack.
This would have been handy for the bingo.
Yeah, true. The Aussie quick, Paddy Cummins, he'll feature in the Big Bash at some point, you'd expect in the coming years. And then we could have Timmy Ward open the batting for the Hurricanes at some point this season. So maybe a card to hang on to for future years. You like that pack, Haz?
Yeah, I'll take that gold Pat Cummins for sure. He'll have an impact when he does come into the Big Bash, so I'll keep that one stashed away.
Righto, well, it's up to you to whack something up in the transfer market if I happen to forget about it. By this time next week, all cards are void and they remain with me. Alrighty, let's wrap things up and let's let our viewers start voting for who they think is going to win Brodown Showdown for round 3. We're doing a bit of a rotation in terms of position. Haz goes from the all-rounder to the bowler this week. I go from the bat to the all-rounder, and Dill goes from the bowler back up to the batsman position. So Haz, your number 1 ranked player was Nathan Ellis. If you want to change that, let me know. You've got about 30 seconds to do so. Otherwise, Ellis is your man. I'm going for a fellow Hobart Hurricane, Mitchy Owen, and Dill, the man I took got off from last week, Cooper Conley. Can he go back to back with the top score and keep me on a goose egg?
Yes,
I'm happy. Sorry, I was just going to say I'm happy to keep Ellis as my pick as the bowler for this week.
Confirmed.
So thank you.
Good.
Nice.
Very good. We've got
straight onto it.
Yep.
Getting in. A couple of splits here. We've got Izzy going for Stu. Love that. Maxi and Mel hitting the Dill button. Love it. And then Haz getting a bit of love from Mian as well. So everyone's a bit split at the moment. Don't forget, all you need to do is comment who you think is going to win this week. Whichever bro has the most points at the end of the round. And if you guess correctly, you can go into the draw to win one of those packs, just like Timo did. And hopefully you get some decent cards there. Look, just quietly, I think Timo won that out of those 2 packs. I think Timo, with that gold Aaron Hardy, was definitely the pick of the bunch there. So well done to Timo.
Agree. Very nice. So yeah, jump on over to our YouTube channel and comment on this video if you're not watching this live and you still want a chance to win. Just jump over to the Fantasy Bros AU YouTube page, find the round 3 live preview show and comment either Haz, Dill or my name, depending on who you think is going to win for your chance to win that 3-player rare pack. Rightio, boys. That's it for another round. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. We had a number of new faces or new names in the chat, which was fantastic to see. Hang around. We're coming live to you most Mondays and most Thursdays in the hour leading up to the first ball of each round. So that means we'll see you on Monday for round 4. That'll be Monday, the 22nd of December. Gee, we're getting close to Christmas, aren't we, boys? 5:00 p.m. We'll look to come to you, so we've got a little bit of time sort of between the end of the stream and the first ball to make some last-minute changes if we need. So adjust those alarm clocks from, I think we might have mentioned 5:15 previously. We'll look at about a 5 to a 5:05 start. Hopefully that works for you all. As always, thanks for your input, everyone in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we can steer you into a couple of winners this week and see your name in the leaderboards. Dill, thanks very much, boys. Good luck this week and go the Heat.